Hello, it's Kelly. This is Animal Instinct. Welcome to my 6th Flosstube video. Today is Sunday, January the 12th, 2020, so Happy New Year. If you're new here or found me through my whip parade, welcome. I'm really happy to have you here. I'm still getting used to the fact that people are watching and seem to want to watch, and I love getting the likes and the comments and people subscribing. It's been so much fun. I am curious, my whip parade video had a lot more views than my other videos, so if you found me through my whip parade, could you let me know how you found me? I'm just really curious. I had a look just before and my other videos maybe have about 300 views. And the whip parade, my newest video, is up to over 1,000, so I'm a bit perplexed and it makes me feel a little bit maybe a little bit anxious. I don't know that so many people are watching, but it's okay. I'll be okay. I'm just really pleased that it's being well received, I guess. Today I'm going to give a general stitching update. So I have a pile of whips here and a little bit of haul, and then I thought I'd do something different at the end. There's been such amazing global outpouring of grief and support for our situation here in Australia at the moment, and unexpectedly I can provide a first-hand account of what's happening in one of the charities that's working in this bushfire relief, because there's been, in our stitching community, so many patterns have been created with all the proceeds going to two charities here in Australia. I thought some of you might find it interesting to know what happens in one of the charities that you are donating money to. So I've been actually working, volunteering at the Adelaide Koala Rescue charity over the last 2 weeks, and it will be ongoing. So at the end, I will give you a bit of an overview of what's been happening there. But we'll start with stitching. So since I last spoke to you, we had New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone, or Happy New Year's even. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. I've spent quite a few hours at the koala rescue place, and it's really tiring work. I hope you had an enjoyable New Year's Eve, however you chose to spend it. I went to the cricket here in Adelaide. Every year there's a Big Bash game at Adelaide Oval. Big Bash cricket is called, the form is called 2020 cricket, and it's basically the closest equivalent to baseball that cricket has. So it's not one of those long games that goes for 5 days and ends in a draw. This is all over within about 4 hours. It's really fast paced. There's some big hits and it's quite exciting to watch. We did lose, but oh well, it was still a fun evening. When I got home, it was before midnight because I'm a real party animal. And I decided to try virtual stitches for the first time. And I really enjoyed myself. So I actually welcomed in the new year with some new stitching friends from around the world. And I did not expect that that's how my new year was going to go down, but what better way? So firstly, we welcomed in the new year in New South Wales and Victoria, 2 states here in Australia, eastern states. Half an hour later, it was my turn. We welcomed in the new year here in South Australia. Half an hour after that, it was Queensland's turn, and then there was a big break. But it wasn't just Australian stitches online. There were stitches from the States, UK and Norway. So if you're on New Year's Eve, it was great to meet you, and I had lots of fun. I did have to frog quite a bit of what I stitched because I think I was a bit distracted by all the chatter. That's okay. I'll show you that shortly. I'd really like to get back on there. If you're not familiar with it, there is a Facebook group. You can join virtual stitches and there's instructions on how to join in, but that was fun. My last video wasn't quite to the end of December, so I have tallied up my sort of stats for December stitching. And as I mentioned in my whip parade, I'm jumping all over the place. I can't seem to focus on anything for too long at the moment. And so I worked on 11 different projects in December, and that included 4 new starts. I had 1 monthly SAL installment finish, and I had 1 other finish stitching and FFO, which was the koala biscornu. So my first whip that I want to show is my Woodland SAL by Lakeside Needlecraft. You can find it on their website. You can purchase just the PDF, or you can get the whole kit, or just the fabric, whatever you like. But month 7 came out at the start of January, and I have completed it. And this one's got a lot of interest on Instagram, and it is just beautiful. It's the deer. Oh, I'm a little shaky from that coffee, I think. How pretty is that? So that's month 7 done. And just to remind you, this is the rest of it so far. So we have 5 to go. And still, I'm very happy that I'm still keeping up to date with this one. But she is packed away now for next month. I feel like there's probably going to be a fox. I'm not sure what else. The next one was one that I kind of was reminded about during my whip parade. I hadn't thought about it for a long time, and it's something that I want to finish. I will put a photo up here of what it will look like when it's finished. It's the Frosted Pumpkins Into the Jungle SAL from 18? I'm not sure. I didn't actually start it when it started. I picked it up later. I have done most of it. As I've already shown this in the whip parade, but that's where it's at. I have 2 animals to go. I need to finish the lower border and the entire upper border that says Into the Jungle. It's being stitched on 28 count Lugana in the colourway Fall to Pieces from Colour Cascade Fabrics. And I just did some work on the border. I did make a mistake somewhere in this leaf. I just need to have a closer look to see if it's worth frogging it or whether I can just fudge it. Kind of, if I can fudge it, I will. I'm going to take this one to work to do some lunchtime stitching and try and finish that soon. Okay, our next one, completely unintentional new start. It wasn't even on my radar when I filmed last, but I saw some pictures of Sarah the Stitching Mummy's new temperature chart, the temperature tree. I just really liked the look of it, and I saw it and I thought, oh, that's not too much of a commitment, I don't think. I would really like to try and get some stitches in every day this year if I can, and this might be a good way to do it. So I'll put a photo in here of the mock-up. She came up with, I think it's 4 different options for temperature variations. I've gone with the hot climate. There's cold climate, there's a climate with extremes, and I feel like there was one more. Anyway, I've gone with the hot. I am stitching it on some linen that we received in our stash bag at the Mittagong Stitches Retreat. I think it's 32 count. It's not natural. It's kind of a little bit cocoa-ish, maybe? No, I don't know how to describe that. So I have made a start on this. And you can see how varied, whoops, sorry, I moved the table there. Our temperatures have been in January. So the reds are hot. The blues are cooler, colder temperatures, and then so it sort of goes blues into greens, into yellows, into reds. The blue, we had our record low temperature for January. It was 17 degrees Celsius. And then we had, that one was, I think it was a 42 degree day Celsius. That's pretty hot. And this one was a 43 degree day. So it's been very varied. That's fun to do and easy to keep up with. I'm just going by the Bureau of Meteorology website, like the official website for Adelaide stats. Next up, my diary says that I worked on the sparrow bisque nest on New Year's Day. I'll be honest, I can't even remember. Did I? I feel like I haven't made progress since I last showed you, but it says I worked on it, so I will show you. And just to remind you, this is the Crossed Wing Collection Chipping Sparrow bisque nest. It's on antique white linen, 28 count, but it's full coverage, so it doesn't really matter what you stitch it on. The eggs are, the eggs are 1/1, and the rest of it is 2 strands of thread over 2 strands of fabric. And I'm just about done on the front. Oh, really shaky. And I've made a start on the back. So I can't really remember. I don't think I did much on New Year's Day. Anyway, that's that one. They look amazing made up, so. Oops. Okay, next up is a new start. I signed up to the Modern Folk Embroidery 2020 Stitch Along, the family patchwork something, sampler maybe, is that what it's called? I'll put a picture up here. I'm stitching it on 40 count antique white linen by Zweigart, and I'm using that beautiful red Silks for You PR023. I have made a start, a moderate start, I guess, and I love how it's looking so far. It's a bit hard to show, hang on. Oh, sorry. I didn't really prepare very well, apparently. There you go. So doesn't it look great? I still have, I think I need to do one more letter here and also finish that border. There's flowers coming off here, here and here that I need to do, and then the border extends down here, and there's another sort of pattern in here, and then that'll be the January done. I am a little bit disappointed because I thought that I'd be able to do this pretty quickly, but I've just been distracted by koalas. And I also had a few nights down at the beach on a family holiday, and I didn't get much stitching in because I had very excited niece and nephew who was so thrilled to have their auntie down there, so they took up lots of my time, which is fine. So that's that. I just love that red. but there's still plenty of January left, so I might get it done before the next installment. And then my last whip for this fortnight, I just need another coffee, sorry. I pulled out Firefly by artwork by Jenny Parks, charted by Gecko Rouge. Photo here of what it's going to look like. It's my epic kit that is going to last me for the rest of my life. Excuse me, sorry. Without further ado, let's have a look at what I've done. So I'm going to try and put a photo up here of where I was. And I really wanted to get his cheek done. And I have done that. So you can sort of see I've gridded pages with a sulky sliver. So I would really like to finish this page here. But I got all of his cheek in. And then last night I just wanted some simple stitching. So I picked a colour over here. It's just shadow, I think shadow behind him. And I was able to put in a large amount of stitches in a fairly short time frame. My sort of plan with this one, I want to fill in his little chest hair here. And then I think here and here is his coat. So I won't tackle that just yet. But my plan would be fill in chest hair, finish this page. Then I'll probably move him down, and I'd like to do this part. So to get his ears done. I have loved working on him. He's not something I can pull out willy-nilly and just put a few stitches in here and there. I've actually got my floss here, I'll show you. There's a lot of setup required. I have the Lowry, oh, you can't see. Yeah, I have the Lowry frame extender thing. Can't remember what it's called. But my Lowry clamps onto the wood, and it keeps it a little bit more stable than clamping onto the edge of the Q-snap. So that's really, really handy. Yeah, I guess yeah, that's him. I'll show him off as much as I can. With his setup, so I showed a couple of videos ago how the Gecko Rouge kits come in a like a plastic bag. This one was too big for that, and it came in a box. And it did come on their standard thread cards that they do. And this is fairly decent card stock, but I just figured long term probably wouldn't last. So I ordered some thread cards holders. They're plastic, off of, I can't remember, it might have been AliExpress or eBay, something like that. So these sorts of things. And I have put on the symbols and the numbers. I need to think about a longer term solution for that, because I'm worried that the ink will fade and I won't know what's what. So I am thinking about how to store it long term. But this is the threads, these are the threads. So there's 20 per card. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 plus all the threads. There's extra thread that didn't fit on the initial ones because there's so much. Now I have Kat, who is somewhere else today, but I can't leave this out. So every night I do pack up that box. I used to, I can find it, before I got Pattern Keeper and I used the paper pattern, I stuck all the symbols and numbers onto this piece of card and laminated it, and I've just got the artwork on the back so I can reference it. And so what I do, I would look at the paper pattern, I would pick a symbol that I needed to work on, so say the smiley face, and then I'd see that the smiley face was number 15, and then I'd have to go through, there was a few of these, and find number 15. Now with Pattern Keeper, you select the symbol you want to work on, there's a column to the right and it tells you immediately that's you need to find 15. So it kind of cuts out a step. I'm not forever searching up and down looking for a symbol on this sheet of paper. So that's just another example of how it helps improve your efficiency. But yeah, so that's not something I can just pull out and put a few stitches in here and there. It takes planning and organisation. What I have done, because it's so easy now to count stitches using Pattern Keeper, I joined Full Coverage Fanatics, and I'm going in their National Parks Challenge just for something fun. I think you stitch 4,000 stitches per national park, and once you've finished 4,000 you can consider that you've visited one. In the last few days I've done, I wrote it down, 3,600 stitches in here. Doesn't really look like it, but yep, that's what it is. So I've almost visited the first one, which is Arcadia. I am thinking about renaming them to Aussie National Parks just for my own interest. I cannot be bothered counting myself manually, but seeing I have a computer program that'll do it. Yeah, that's just something else that I've been doing just for fun. So Firefly. That's it for my whips. Okay, so I have a little bit of haul to show. Not too much. I'm trying not to buy too much this year, and this is all things that I ordered last year at the end of the year. Right, firstly, I got some beautiful fabric from Jay's X Stitch. She's on Etsy. Oh, can you see that? I don't know how to, I still haven't worked out the focus thing. Jay's X with an X Stitch, Jay's X Stitch on Etsy. She's an Australian business, and she dyes her fabrics and threads. And for the fabrics, at least, she uses natural products, food and drink sort of products. So I bought a piece of 32 count even weave in her strawberries and cream colourway. Which is this one. It is pretty subtle. It's actually a bit pinker than that though. Not showing up so well. Did not want to drop that in my coffee. No, I can't. Anyway, it's a little bit pinker than what it's showing. And I did buy that with a project in mind, which I'll mention shortly. And I also got also some 32 count even weave, and it's weak tea. And I know I'll be able to find something to stitch on this. So beautiful, beautifully dyed. Warming up. I don't know if you can see how bright it is out there. It's really hard to get good lighting today. Everything's kind of blown out. Jay is great to deal with, really nice person, really great customer service. Highly recommend her products. Next up, I'm blaming Amanda completely. Amanda from Pennington Terrace. It's all your fault. You may, if you've watched previous videos, you know that I stitched our forest's whale piece. Well, Amanda pointed out that they now have a similar style piece of a cat. So I couldn't help myself. This has come from Russia. And it's actually, it can be a companion piece to my whale because the fabric is the same. It's even the same size. And the threads are also the same. They put together really nice kits, our forest. And so it's wrapped up like that, but also tied to bobbins. Cardboard bobbins with the symbols on them. Excuse my fingers today. They're a little ruined by koalas. They're clean. They're just not so pretty. The other thing that you get with our forest kit, some info about the company and really interesting instructions on how to stitch with variegated threads for different effects, which that wasn't in my last kit, but it's really interesting. They also sent, included in the kit was a needle minder. There goes the shakes again. And it's kind of like a snowy scene with the moon and a needle. So everything you need, really. Now I remembered when I ordered this, I remembered that the needle minder last time was really good. It was like really magnetic. So I ordered a few more. They're really reasonably priced as well, they're needle minders. So I got so you've got the autumn kitty, which is what it was called, with an autumn sort of background. That's going to go on my autumn kitty project. And then the other one is a Russian window on that wood panelled house. I was lucky enough to visit Russia a while ago now and saw lots of those traditional style Russian houses. So I got those two and beautiful, really pretty the pomegranate and some apple blossom. I don't know if I can show you, like, they're really hard to pull apart. They're really good. Anyway, they're really good. So add them to my collection. Need to separate them. Next I got, the final bit of haul. I've been surviving using a light, this light, for the past little while from IKEA. It's pretty good. It's, you know, bendy and it clips onto my Lowry stand and it's kind of this yellowy, like yellowy light. Not ideal, but it served its purpose. I had one of those desk lamps that you open, like you open up and it turns on, and it was a Daylight Company one, and it was really good. It was a casualty in my house move. So I've been thinking about getting myself a proper floor light for a while, and so I ordered this one. It's on wheels. It's also bendy. It's got the daylight globe in there, and the lighting is just, it's a bit softer, more true to life with an, oh, it's really hard to show, just trust me, it's really good. And it's not quite as harsh on my eyes. It's very good. I just put it together last night and love it. Now, when I ordered the desk lamp years ago. I remember I got some freebies and I ordered this from the same place and I forgot to bring the name of it over. I think he calls himself the Daylight Man and Scissor Man, maybe, here in Australia. I'll put a link in to his website. He has a great range of lights and scissors. And so also included with this light is a magnifier, which at this stage in my life I don't really need, but I'm sure I'll need it down the track. So that's going to go away in the cupboard. And a replacement globe. The last globe in my other lamp lasted like 6 years, so I should be set for a while, and just a neat little pair of scissors. So it's really good. He got them out to me really quickly. He did send me a message to say, just after I'd ordered, that he was going on a little holiday with his family, so there'd be a slight delay in shipping, but it was absolutely fine. It was really nice of him to let me know. Okay, so that's all my haul. I have a planned new start using Jay's X-Stitch Strawberries and Cream fabric. And it's a popular one. The blue flower, get rid of that. Night walked down. So I assume the model was stitched on the Cold For Weeks Dye Works, Gentle Arts and Classic Colourworks threads. I don't have those, so plan to just use DMC, and there is a DMC conversion. But it's quite interesting. I mean, look at that border. It looks kind of like blacky, grey, charcoaly sort of colour. And the DMC that's called for in the border is actually blues and greens. So there's 500, 823 and 924. So I'm curious to see how it stitches up. I do wonder if perhaps the maybe the image was edited to show the fabric a bit better and it changed the look of the stitches, or maybe the stitches in the specialty, or not the specialty, the overdyed threads are that different from the suggested DMC. I'm not really sure. But there was another one that's a bit strange. It's the Cold For Overdyed is Classic Colourworks branded pairs, and the suggested blend of DMC is 3824 and 975. Have a look at this. It's a really weird combo. So I wasn't really happy with that. I guess you'd need to use one strand of each. I went looking through my stash and I actually found a Threadworks that I think will work really well. It is 10342. And if I hold them up with the DMC, it's kind of like a nice middle ground between the two extremes of the two DMC colours. So hopefully that will look good. I'm mostly using DMC, but I do have some variegated threads that I'll sub in, and I'll just see, I'll play it by ear. So that's a planned new start at some stage. And then also I watched Christine Stitch All the Things, her Christine tag, and I really enjoyed watching that. It was fun with kind of different questions. And I thought I might try and do a Stitch with me perhaps and answer those questions. I'll need to find something that I'm not going to make mistakes doing, and I need to make sure if I can figure out the setup so you can see my stitching. But I would like to do that. I had planned to do it this weekend because when I watched her video, I didn't think I'd be so heavily involved with the koalas. But that's okay. I'll get to it at some point. So that's all for stitching. I can't believe I've been yabbering on for 35 minutes. If you're not interested in koala stuff, see ya. We'll see you again next time. I'll be back in 2 weeks, definitely for another update, and possibly before then with a stitch with me. So yes, on to Koala Rescue. Where to even start? We were not allowed to take photos, so unfortunately I can't share any images with you. They are a bit sensitive about that, and I can respect that. To be honest, I didn't really have time to take many photos. There's going to be a link below to a news article. They allowed journalists in one day when I was not there, and a politician to come and cuddle koalas. So there is a news article with some photos of the work being done there. Also, you can find them on Instagram and Facebook, I think, Adelaide Koala Rescue. So on New Year's Eve, I saw a call out on social media for veterinarians in my city to come and help out at a koala rescue facility, treating koalas affected by the recent bushfires. It was, I was on holidays, and I don't have specific koala veterinary experience or koala anything experience really, but I was free and I just kind of felt like, yep, absolutely, I didn't hesitate to offer to assist. So I went along and was absolutely astounded at the amazing setup they have. They've set up in a primary school gymnasium in the Adelaide suburbs. I'll sort of paint the scene. You walk in and there are over 100 playpens. They're kind of like collapsible playpens that are mesh so you can see into them, and they have a zip around the top, so fully secure playpens. And everyone had at least one koala in there with fresh leaves and branches and water and bedding. Once I became familiar with how it was all set up, I realised there were different sort of units. So closest to the veterinary station, there was the burns unit and the intensive care unit. There was also the nursery unit, which contained mums who'd lost babies and babies who'd lost mums. There were far more orphans than there were mums without babies. They were trying to pair some up, but there was like a big pile of babies. They were absolutely adorable. You know, like this big pile of cuteness. And there'd be 7 in one playpen, just all like hanging out together. There was also a frame, I called it the jungle gym, like a frame set up of branches with smaller branches with lots of leaves coming off of them set up so that they could sit out on branches and sort of exhibit some normal behaviour. Mostly the babies, the sort of naughty toddlers, hung out on there, and then we'd bring other koalas out to have a bit of a spell as well, and they just sat there and for the most part just chilled out. There were occasional runaways, naughty koalas. There was also a chlamydia unit, so koalas suffer from chlamydia, and it causes blindness, and if they can't see, they can't eat. It is contagious, so they were sectioned off, they had their own sort of quarantined area. And then there was a big section which was pre-release. So they were koalas who had been through the veterinary centre and were deemed to be okay to be released. I wasn't involved in the collection and then release of koalas, but it is quite complex. There are laws about where you can release koalas in the wild based on where you found them. They are supposed to be released within a certain distance of where they were found. That's really hard when a fire's ripped through and there's no food for them there. So I think that's been a challenge, but there have been lots of successful releases. There's a big board of all the names. They all get named and all the successful releases, which is great. So we had a veterinary station, and that was where I was based, with a couple of examination tables and all the supplies we needed to manage these koalas with various injuries and illnesses. So the basic premise was they would be brought in a cage. We would kind of triage them because sometimes you might get a whole heap at once, and we would quickly check them to see who needed urgent attention, prioritize them. Every single koala had an anaesthetic because they might look cute and cuddly, but they're wild animals. So they bite and they scratch. I have a few war wounds, not too bad, came away pretty well unscathed. But to fully examine them, and you know, burns are really painful, we would give them an anaesthetic. We would check them from head to toe. So we would be looking at, often the eyes were painful, around the eyes. They've also got that big nose that's hairless, a lot of burns there. We would check in their mouth because sometimes there'd be burns in the mouth. We would look at ears, listen to the chest really carefully because they could have smoke inhalation. We would be checking all the limbs for any potential fractures, the paws for burns, the pouches of the females, because it wasn't uncommon to find a little pinky, and I'm talking little, 1 inch from head to toe, 2.5 centimeters, 3 centimeters in the pouch, translucent sort of pink skin, hence pinkies. Hopefully if we can get the mum through, then the baby will hopefully survive too. Checking temperatures as well, because some of them were heat stressed. Then we would write extensive notes on all our findings. We would do any treatments required, such as burn management, bandaging paws. For the most part, we'd bandage them so they were like that. So they could still, when they woke up, they could still grasp onto branches and exhibit normal behaviour to bring the leaves to them to eat. If you bandage them like this, their paws are pretty much useless, and the ones, occasionally we had to bandage them like that, and they need to be hand fed. So I've seen on social media people calling out for like crafters to make koala mittens, and I'll be honest, completely useless, and they're actually detrimental to the well-being of the koala, because if they've got mittens on, they'll starve unless they're hand fed. So as kind of thought as it is, koala mittens, not a good thing. So once that was all done, they all got fluid supplementation. So some of them were on IV fluids, some of them had fluids under the skin. That was regularly, their hydration was regularly assessed. Then they would wake up and we would put them into the various units depending on what was going on with them. We'd create a treatment plan on their chart, and then we would also write that on we had a whiteboard with all the koalas needing treatments and when we had treatment times. So we're 8 a.m, noon, 8 p.m, midnight. We tried not to do a 4 a.m. treatment because there wasn't always going to be a vet there. It was just go, go, go. Sometimes there would be lots of volunteers, sometimes there wouldn't be many. So I had a shift where I was pretty much the only vet there for most of the day. And I was really lucky. I had a great team working with me, and we were able to get through everything. But if I'd stopped to think about it, I probably would have been a bit overwhelmed. I didn't have time to stop and think. I just focused on the koala in front of me, got through that, made sure all its needs were met, and moved on to the next one. And yeah, it was, I think I did an 8-hour shift, and I realised when I got home that I hadn't stopped to eat anything or drink anything in 8 hours. Didn't go to the toilet. I didn't even think about it. I was so focused on the work. So really tiring work. It's ongoing. They're open 24 hours a day. But it's very rewarding, especially when you can get them from the veterinary centre into the pre-release section. I am going back to work tomorrow. I've been on my Christmas break, so back at work full time, but I have committed to going back to the koala centre, I think 3 evenings this week. and I'll just keep helping out as they need, because how can I not? So yeah, I hope that wasn't too waffly, but I certainly had no idea about what was going on with all the injured wildlife, and I found it really interesting as a vet and just as a human being to see how a koala treatment centre can be set up out of nothing, you know, an empty school hall. So I thought maybe some of you might be interested too. School goes back in a week, so they're having to find new premises. I think I heard them talking about it, but to be honest, I didn't have time to stop and ask. It was just go, go, go. But yes, that's it. I hope that was interesting, and I'll definitely be back in 2 weeks with another Stitchy update. Possibly before then with a stitch with me. We'll see how things go. And if you're interested, you can find me on Instagram at animal_stitches. And we'll see you next time. Bye.